We're going to move on, members, to STANCOM report number 906. Representative Ward.
Speaker, in strong opposition.
Strong opposition, please proceed.
Can I proceed with where I left off, or should I begin at the beginning? Again, my apologies, members.
You remember that.
It must have been the drug that we were talking about or something like that.
You can begin where you left off.
I can begin where I left off. I think I was saying medicine is medicine, and therefore medicine should be treated like medicine because this is medical marijuana. And are we treating it like medical pharmaceuticals? It doesn't seem to be the case because we're going to be doing dispensaries. 26, I believe, are slotted into the various counties. But if it is medicine, Mr. Speaker, some of my colleagues and I agree that let's put it where all the other pharmaceuticals go. Let's put it into Longs, let's put it into CVS, let's put it into Walgreens. Let's make it where, like some of the medicines we get now, there's a prescription, there's an ID showing, and there's all those particular protocols. We've already established that. So if it's medical, let's treat it as medical because, Mr. Speaker, some of these people really need this. And right now there are, I think, about 14,000, of which there's 311 who are totally disabled, who have no way of getting access to it. But everybody has access to Longs, through Walgreens, through other places that are already established. But we're going to reinvent the wheel. That's my first concern, Mr. Speaker. My second concern is that this is possibly going to create a black market. Why do I say that? Well, how much does it cost to get a dispensary license, according to this bill? $30,000. How much does it cost to get a license to be a dispensary like Longs or Walgreens? $338. Mr. Speaker, are we creating something outside of the norm of pharmaceuticals? I just don't understand how we can be doing that if our intent is to do this as a strictly medicinal entity. The prosecuting attorney mentioned that because of the high cost of a location, high cost of employees, high cost of packaging, high cost of these $30,000 licenses, not only to get it, but renew it every year, the guys on the street are going to see that, whoa, the price that comes out of those packages, of which we have no idea, of these dispensary packages, we have no idea of which the cost will be. But people vote their wallets, and if it's cheaper on the street, of which now I was told in the Finance Committee is $20 per gram. $20 per gram on the streets. Can that price be met by the dispensaries? Because I would say, Mr. Speaker, other than those disabled, those other 12,500 or whatever, are probably going to stay on the streets. And what does it tell to those growers that, hey, there's a market here, they got the dispensaries, it's getting legitimate, let's get into the business of growing this stuff, because there's not really any controls, as there is now. I mean, not even now. Everybody looks in another direction or away from what's really going on under our nose. So the first thing was medicine not being treated by medicine. The second thing is it's going to encourage a black market. And my third reason for objecting to this bill is the unintended consequences. Mr. Speaker, we always talk about a gateway to drugs. We always talk about alcohol. It's the way that people start out and they end up going more and more and I guess in a spiral way into stuff that's tougher and higher. Well, do we need another one? Do we need marijuana? Because some people have even said that marijuana is already a gateway drug. And maybe it's still debatable. But do we need a gateway drug to again put people into a state of mind other than those who medically need it? And secondly, an unintended consequence may be that, well, we're setting up shop after 13, 14, 15 years for medical marijuana, but we're really just saying and getting the slicks ready for recreational marijuana. Mr. Speaker, that's a slope that I think a number of other states have entered on, and it's one that we know that we could enter on very easily here. So for the reason that we're not treating medicine as medicine, there's unintended consequences, and the fact that we may create a black market, we should be very cautious. Slow down this, see what's going on in Colorado on the mainland. Don't jump out in front just for the sake of having so many years that we haven't done anything, and do this thing. If we're going to do it right, and do it now with the right approach to it, not with this bill. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Representative. Further discussion on the measure, members? Representative Johansson.
Thank you, Speaker. I rise with reservations.
Reservations, please proceed.
Thank you. I wanted to preface my remarks by thanking both the Public Safety Chair, the Health Chair, and the Judiciary Chair, because I think this is an earnest effort to build a robust regulatory structure, which I think is needed. I mean, if we're going to go down this path, that has to be a precursor. My main reservations revolve around tightening up the link between production centers, dispensaries, patients, and caregivers. And I think that's something that's been noted by those respective chairs as their intent, which I appreciate. But for public safety, and to do this right, I do think that we need to continue to work on this bill to make sure that there is indeed that robust regulatory structure. Thank you. And may I also have permission to insert written comments in the journal?
So ordered.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Representative Tsuji.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please record my reservations.
So ordered. Thank you very much,
you.
Representative. Representative Har, followed by Representative Ichiyama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In opposition?
Opposition, please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, I do have an article here from the Hill newspaper, and it deals with a January 2015 article regarding the governor of Colorado, John Hickenlooper, stating that legalizing marijuana in the state of Colorado was a bad idea. Essentially, he notes that banks are reluctant to finance marijuana businesses in states where it is legal because federal law still lists marijuana as an illegal drug. Congress would still need to pass a law removing that language. And so, for the record, I'd like to submit this article for the record. And in addition, Mr. Speaker, I have a letter here from the Undersecretary of Defense. Obviously, this is becoming an issue with all of the states. And so the Undersecretary of Defense had submitted a letter for distribution to all military personnel, essentially advising that legislative changes by some states and the District of Columbia do not alter federal law or existing national security guidelines. Agencies continue to be prohibited from granting or renewing a security clearance to an unlawful user of a controlled substance, which includes marijuana. So for the record, I'd also like to submit this into the journal. Mr. Speaker, just very briefly, I do appreciate the work that was done by the Health Chair. I think she actually has some very good points, and she worked very hard, diligently, to really try to rein in some of the pitfalls that could occur through the de facto legalization of marijuana. With that said, Mr. Speaker, with the prevalence of Konowens, many people, like my husband, suffer from the effects of VOG. He relies on decongestants combined with allergy medicine to be comfortable and to carry on with his daily life. In order to do this, he has to sign a declaration that he will use the decongestant, that he will not use the decongestant for illicit purposes. And the volume of decongestant that he has purchased must be reported to that pharmacy. The pharmacy reports it back to a registry to regulate the amount of decongestant he can have at any given time. Ironically, House Bill 321 makes obtaining medical marijuana easier than purchasing a decongestant. There is a lack of proportionality here, as the threat from marijuana significantly is greater than the threat posed by decongestants. Here we have decongestants that must be chemically refined to a more similar narcotic than that required by regulation. Compare that to marijuana, which is ready to use after the time of purchase. In addition, my concern arises from the fact that the committee report recommends prohibiting a medical marijuana purchaser from withholding information about previous purchases from other dispensaries in order to obtain unauthorized marijuana or manufactured marijuana products. While we are looking at treatment options, a treatment option poses a greater threat to public safety in the wrong hands, with the absence of any database or registry or tracking, we can only assume that the only enforcement mechanism is the honor policy. I find that frightening, Mr. Speaker, and a slap in the face to allergy sufferers everywhere. There is still nothing in the HD1 that prevents a user from going to multiple dispensaries in one day and collecting 4 ounces at every visit to accumulate more for themselves, and who else knows? Who will they be distributing it to? The chair goes on to note at the end of the committee report, your committees, however, have concerns that the revenues generated may not be sufficient to sustain a regulated system of marijuana dispensaries. and cultivation centers. Accordingly, your committees respectfully request that the Committee on Finance also consider whether other financing options, such as tax structures or taxing methodologies, are necessary to ensure that regulation of the system of medical marijuana dispensaries and production centers will continue. Taxation or even fee-based assessments on an honor policy is doomed to fail, Mr. Speaker. We know how that ends. It's called the Deposit Beverage Container Program, and we know how that worked out. Mr. Speaker, for those reasons, I stand in opposition, and I would like permission to enter additional written comments into the journal.
Also so ordered.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Representative Ichiyama, followed by Representative Choi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With reservations and permission to insert written comments.
So ordered.
Thank you
very much. Representative Choi.
Please.
So ordered. Thank you very much. Further discussion, Representative DeCoit, followed by Representative Kyoho Kalole.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With reservations, permission to insert comments to the journal.
So ordered. Thank you very much, Representative. Representative Kyoho Kalole.
Reservations, please.
So ordered. Thank you very much. Representative Kachola, followed by Representative Kawakami.
WR.
So ordered. Representative Kawakami.
Reservations.
So
written
ordered.
Comments. Thank you.
Representative, so ordered. Also so ordered. Representative Ng.
In support.
Please proceed in support.
I also would like to echo the comments made by the representative from Hawaii Kai that this should be treated like medicine. It should be in pharmacies. Unfortunately, it cannot be until it's reclassified on the federal level. This is the best we have right now, dispensaries. This is a big problem. On Maui last year, an individual by the name of Brian Murphy, who operated a Paia dispensary called Patients Without Time, was arrested. And he faced 250 years possibly in prison, so he pled no contest. And instead of getting probation, he got put in prison. For doing a good deed, really. First, we need to pass this bill, then we need to free Brian Murphy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Representative Yamashita.
Reservations, please.
So ordered. Thank you very much. Representative Yamane, followed by Representative Matsumoto.
Mr. Speaker, reservations.
So ordered.
Very briefly, my reservations is that as a clinical social worker that actually worked with children and adolescents and adults who use marijuana as young children, teenagers, and also in their adult life, and seeing the effects that impacted their ability to hold jobs, their memory loss, and some of the other impacts and social impacts both on them as well as their family, I have strong reservations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Matsumoto.
With reservations.
So ordered.
And if I could have the words from the representative from Honolulu inserted into the journal as if they were my own. Thank
so
you.
ordered. Thank you very much. Representative McDermott, followed by Representative Tokioka.
Mr. Speaker, in opposition.
Opposition, please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, this is simply the framework for full legalization 2 to 3 years down the road. Why else would you need 26 dispensaries? I mean, and you're only selling one product. Imagine, if you would, you open a drugstore and you only sell one product, Tylenol 3. Now, that's prescribed a lot more than medical marijuana, but there's no way you could stay afloat. You couldn't keep your doors open because there's not enough business, not enough revenue. And that, plus the fact that the local communities, the counties, have no say in where these things will be located. If you don't like it, you go see your councilman, tough luck. So that is the dirty secret here. This is merely the infrastructure so we can come back 2 to 3 years from now and implement full legalization. That's what this is about. It's not about helping sick people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Tokioka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In opposition?
Opposition, please proceed.
And I think there is a typo in the bill on number 1 where it says not less than 26 dispensaries. We're going to go from 0 to 26 in less than 4 years. And so I think that's very problematic, and I am voting in opposition to this bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Representative. Representative Tupola, followed by Representative Takayama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In opposition?
Opposition, please proceed.
I just wanted to thank the health chair. You know, she took the time to sit down with me and I vetted out my concerns to her. She did a really good job at incorporating people's concerns and trying to make it work. I have the same concerns as the representative from Mililani and the representative from Kauai. And in addition to that, I think that there could be a possible win-win if we roll out a pilot now. Like the sentiments of my colleague from Hawaii Kai, we need it now. If we could roll it out now and have safeguards in place so that we could check or or reassure that some of these concerns are vetted out before it rolls into a full statewide system, I would support that. Making sure that a good pilot program is run where everyone's on board. Anything that might be, questionable is worked out, and then it pushes forward as a as-need basis. When we need those many, it rolls out. And so those are my concerns, and those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Takayama.
In support.
In support, please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to note to the members of this body that 19 other states have already been operating dispensaries, some of them for a number of years. I know there's been concern expressed of the number of dispensaries proposed in this measure, 26, and I can say that as a member of the task force whose report formed the basis of this measure, that the task force tried to strike a balance between making medical marijuana accessible while at the same time not being overly permissive. And in doing so, the task force, I think, found a reasonable balance. There are some states that authorize fewer dispensaries than 26, and there are some that authorize many more. For example, the state of Massachusetts authorizes 35 dispensaries, and in the state of Arizona, 124. Some states have no limit on dispensaries at all. It was pointed out that the state of New York, with its much larger population, only allows 20 dispensaries. This was under a law that was enacted last year, and without the benefit of having compiled a list of medical marijuana patients. In comparison, Hawaii has had 15 years of compiling a list of medical marijuana patients that now consists of 13,000 patients. And so the task force decided that reasonable accommodation would be to provide one dispensary for every 500 patients. This also takes into account the fact that we're trying to serve 6 different islands between which air transportation of marijuana is not legal. And so in summary, I just want to point out that this measure does not legalize marijuana. What it does do is deliver on a promise that was made 15 years ago to medical marijuana patients, and it does so in a manner that I believe is both safe and responsible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. I'm going to go for all those that did not speak yet first, and then I'm going to come around a second time, Representative Ng. Sorry about that. So first time speaking on that measure, Representative Jordan.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, with reservations.
Please proceed with reservations.
I really wasn't going to speak on this measure, but I'm feeling a little compelled to. As the Public Safety Chair has stated, it's been 15 years that we allowed individuals to carry a little blue card, and that's not to work in a bar such as I did when I was 18 years old. It's for these individuals to have the ability to either grow or get some illegal way their medication. And when we talk about disservice, when this legislative body hasn't provided a safe, meaning, and protective way for individuals to purchase their medication, I think that's a disservice to our constituents. It became very personal for me when one of my great friends from childhood days, we're great friends, but we took 2 different paths. You see, she didn't drink, she didn't smoke cigarettes, she didn't promote any type of illicit activities. They went to church every Sunday. I, on the other hand, took the other path. I really enjoyed life. And her mother became blind and then got cancer. And I met up with my good friend after her mother had passed away, and she had to tell me that, Joe, the only way we could soothe her pain and agony was to illegally obtain marijuana. And I know this lady probably had a very difficult time smoking marijuana. And they didn't even have the time to get her a blue card. We're talking about helping people with compassion, or helping a child that may need it for epilepsy, or helping an individual that may have a terminal disease. That's what we're talking about here, Mr. Speaker. I have some issues with the measure. It is a work in progress. It does have a defective date. I called out in the 2 hearings that I sat on, what are we doing on the financial end? Because in the big picture world, if we do set up dispensaries, how are they going to be able to transact? Depositing all this cash into a banking institution is still illegal. You can't just walk into a public banking facility and say, can I have $1 million loan to open up a dispensary? It's illegal. We still haven't discussed the financial aspect of this outside of how much it may cost my Department of Health to operate a program. I understand a $30,000 fee and a renewal fee of about $20,000. We need to make it work in our Department of Health without costing more taxpayers' general fund monies. And that's still a burden upon those individuals that may need that medication. I haven't heard, you know, if I have a patient that walks into a dispensary, are they going to get quality tested material? I haven't heard that yet because we don't have testing facilities here for these THC counts or CBC counts. I'm waiting for this to go through some more process, but at the end of the day, we must provide something for individuals. Now, we know on the other side of this building, they're bringing over a bill that may decrim up to a specific amount. And I think that's a little too soon to be discussing that when we can't even get our state in order to provide medication for individuals that we give a little card to and say, good luck, and then may prosecute them if they're caught smoking in public somewhere. So at this point in time, it's with reservations, Mr. Speaker, and I hope it comes back to the floor where we can have a more vibrant discussion before the end of session. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very much, Representative. I believe I have Representative Kumi followed by Speaker Joe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In support.
In support, please proceed.
I think much of the comments on the floor today was, in essence, saying that we shouldn't even have medical marijuana, but I think that horse has left the barn. Hawaii has passed out a medical marijuana law some years ago, and was alluded to by a previous speaker that we have 13,000 people in our state who currently are able to smoke medical marijuana. The question then before us today is whether or not we create a system whereby people can be ensured that they have access, that the quality is there, that the security is there, and that all the safeguards are present. I wanted to address directly the whole question about that marijuana is a gateway drug. There's been many studies. In fact, in 1999, Congress commissioned a study done by the Institute of Medicine of the National Academy of Sciences that indicated that marijuana is not a gateway drug. In fact, Mr. Speaker, the most abused drug in the United States are legally prescribed drugs. Second and third most abused drug in our country are readily accessible. You can get them at a tobacco shop or a liquor store. The reason why marijuana is considered in a myth a gateway drug because it is the most widely accessible illegal drug. It would be, you're making the mistake of equating correlation with cause. I'll give you one example, Mr. Speaker. Many of us rode bicycles when we were kids. Some of us who rode bicycles later became fans of riding motorcycles. And a small fraction of those who ride motorcycles became Hell's Angels. It doesn't mean that bicycles are the gateway vehicle to become a Hell's Angel. Those who don't ride bicycles are less likely to ride a motorcycle, ergo, very unlikely that they will become a Hell's Angels. Do not confuse correlation with cause. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Speaker Joe Suki.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members, I opt for this bill, and very strongly, because I believe that this bill is a compassionate bill. This bill will provide relief to the mother of an epileptic child. It will provide relief to a parent who's suffering from cancer. So, members, just think about it. Think of this not as a drug, but as a compassion item. That you are helping somebody out there to relieve the pain that they have, to relieve the child from their epileptic seizures, to allow the cancer patient to eat and hopefully get strong enough, hopefully to get well, and more so. So I ask you not even to vote with reservations, to vote up. This is a good bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that compassionate speech, Mr. Speaker. Representative LaPresti, I believe I had, and then Representative McKelvey.
Strong support.
Strong support. Please proceed.
I ask that the comments of the Public Safety Chair, Ed Chair, and Speaker of the House be entered into the journal as comments.
So ordered.
I just want to reemphasize 13,000 people for 14 years. We've abandoned them. We ought not to lack the courage to have compassion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Representative McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In support.
In support, please proceed.
Just like the words of the Speaker of the House, the Chair of Education, and the Chair of Public Safety entered into the record as if they were my own.
So ordered.
But it would also like the words of the good representative from Waianae into the record as if they were my own, because I do believe more work is needed on some very detailed mechanics for this program to work. Thank you.
Also so ordered. Further discussion. I'm going to seek first-time speakers first. Representative Fukumoto Chang.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with reservations.
Please proceed.
And I just want to make something very clear that I am against the legalization of marijuana. I just don't believe that that is what we're doing today. So the reason why I'm voting with reservations, well, first, the reason why I support it and I'm not against it, there's a little girl in my district that a lot of you have already met who is suffering from seizures. And the only thing that her mother has been able to do is give her medical marijuana. And she has no legal means to obtain that marijuana. And her story has really helped to change some of my perspective on this issue and changed a lot of her neighbors' perspectives. I come from a pretty conservative community, but I think most of us can agree that if it helps this little girl, and for her that it is a medicine, then we want to do something to help fill out the law, which essentially is half a law right now, Mr. Speaker. We allow people to get a card for medical marijuana, but we don't give them any way to get it, which means that this mother of this child in my district has to grow her own marijuana, which means that she has to get home every night through traffic and work on this just to hope that she has enough to be able to make the oil that her kid needs. And most of her neighbors and most of my neighbors understand that there is a problem here when a mother and a child are suffering. And for me, that's what this is about. That is why I am in support. But I do have some reservations because I think there are a lot of loopholes that we have to close up, including loopholes in the underlying program, because there are still people that are getting medical marijuana that probably shouldn't have it, that maybe don't have true medical needs. And I think we need to make sure that if we're going to treat this like a medicine, and if we, at least in our state, are going to say this is medicine, then we need to make sure that there isn't abuse of that medicine either. So thank you, Mr. Speaker, with reservations, and if I can also insert written comments, please.
So ordered.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Again, we're going for first-time speakers, Representative Thielen, then Representative Aquino.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Speaker. No reservations whatsoever. Speaker Suki, no reservations, in strong
support. Please proceed.
Strong support. Mr. Speaker, a bipartisan measure has been introduced in the United States Senate, and it's to legalize medical marijuana. The one thing that the bipartisan group can agree upon in Foggy Bottom in Washington, D.C. I think we are finally doing the compassionate thing that we should have done 15 years ago, and I give great credit to Speaker Suki because he knew that 15 years ago, and we finally are catching up. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Representative Aquino.
Reservations, written comments.
So ordered. Thank you very much. Representative, okay, now we're going through second time. Representative Ng, I think you want to go up again?
Yes,
Still
please.
in support?
Still in support. I just wanted to note that this isn't a new issue. We've passed medical marijuana first in the nation over 15 years ago now. This is just the final piece of the puzzle that actually make it work. In 2009, actually, the Hawaii State Legislature issued a resolution congratulating Brian Murphy for operating his Paia dispensary, Patients Without Time, and assisting Hawaii's certified medical marijuana patients with the acquisition of their medical marijuana. So it was our intent 15 years ago, it was our intent 6 years ago, and it's about time that we complete the puzzle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Looking for a second time speakers? Any further discussion? Representative Kehoe Kalole, followed by Representative Cullen.
Still in support with reservations.
Please proceed.
I didn't take the opportunity earlier to thank the health chair and the public safety chair for their work on this bill. I do support the intent of this bill. I do believe that medical marijuana can be used to alleviate serious medical conditions, and I am in support of the concept of allowing those who need the help to get the help that they deserve. The reservations I have come from the experiences that have taken place in some of the other states that have enacted similar provisions to this. I'd like to reference the DEA website referring to their position on medical marijuana and the grave concerns that they have with the link between marijuana grow operations in different states and their connection to illegal drug trafficking organizations. In Denver, in October, a medical marijuana dispensary was raided, alleging that money was funneled from Colombia to an organization, a corporation in Colorado, for use to open a dispensary or a grow operation. In California, there have been numerous raids by the DEA of medical marijuana dispensaries and grow organizations, grow operations, because of their alleged ties to drug trafficking organizations. If this is going to be a local effort, which it needs to be, in order for this program to take place, I just would like to stay engaged on this topic to ensure that we are properly accounting for this issue. In a letter from the Department of Justice to the states, the Attorney General mentioned a group of guidelines to the states who were enacting these programs to ensure that they were properly regulating dispensaries to prevent revenue from the sale of marijuana from going to criminal enterprises, gangs, and cartels. In reference to the LA raid, which was in the LA Times, that actually was in October. The Denver raid was in April. The DEA mentioned that states who are regulating marijuana shops, if they intended to avoid federal action taken against their state operators, that the states needed to ensure that they got their regulatory act together. I just hope that we are taking proper precautions to make sure that the folks who are growing this crop and who are dispensing this crop are people who are upstanding farmers and people who have the best intentions. I am particularly concerned, given the comments of the representative from Y&I regarding financing of marijuana operations and the fact that there is such a steep permitting threshold. And I wonder who the organizations are or who the people are that are going to be able to do this type of industry. People who have cash flow.
I'll yield my time.
Thank you very much, Representative.
People who have cash flow to enter into this business, people who have the experience and the logistical capability to run a marijuana grow operation and operate a distribution network to dispensaries within the guidelines of the regulatory framework that we establish. So, like I said, I do support the policy. I do support the ability of people who are sick to get the medicine that they deserve. But we have a federal drug framework for a reason. And I think we need to stay cognizant of the fact that the pharmaceutical industry is highly regulated for a good reason. And that's partly because of the reasons that I mentioned earlier. So for those reasons, I again stand with support with reservations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. I believe I had Representative Cullen first, then I'll go with Representative Kawakami and Ward. Sorry about that.
Just real
Representative
quick,
Cullen?
Mr. Speaker, in opposition,
Opposition?
to enter written comment.
So ordered. Thank you very much. Representative Kawakami, second time?
Yes, second time, Mr. Speaker, and thank you so much for the opportunity. I feel compelled to express my reservations beyond written comments based on the conversation. I just would like to express that my reservations as a proponent of home rule is that as a proponent of home rule and as a proponent of medicinal marijuana, this bill strips all home rule authority from the counties. I feel that this is a zoning issue. Mr. Speaker, when a developer goes in whether it be a resort, whether it be a community, whether it be an affordable housing project, there are a number of conditions that our planning commissions, that our county councils are afforded to be a part of that conversation to get more out of the deal. And I would say that this bill does not have any provisions for home rule, and that is what I'm basing my reservations on. And I'd also like to say that I'm very uncomfortable with the amount of dispensaries that we're going to be allowing in the state. I don't think that there's any harm in starting slowly to see how things are moving. And I would like to point out that the public safety, that the crime is not from the drug doing, whether it be prescription drugs, medicinal marijuana, or illicit drugs, it's from the drug dealing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Representative Ward.
Speaker, still in opposition.
Still in opposition. Second time. Thanks.
Thank my colleagues from the Big Island and Kauai for reminding me of the other unintended consequences that I didn't elaborate on, particularly the, as just spoken by the representative from Kauai, the NIMBY factor that's going to be between we, the legislators at the state level, and those at the county level. And how many here are going to say, not in my district, not in my backyard? Who's going to come up with that? But the second and important thing that makes me rise again, Speaker, is that I saw some people's body language saying, criminal elements. No, this is all medical marijuana. How can there be criminal elements in this issue? Well, I think the good doctor from the Big Island has a colleague in the Senate who is the good doctor who used to be in this body, Senator Green. I'll mention him by name because he said there was a particular doctor who would fly in from the mainland, set up in a hotel, and people would come in with the cash in their pocket, and he would write out their medical marijuana certificates for 3 or 4 days, stuff all the money in his pocket, fly back to California. Those who are getting those medical marijuana certificates are probably not up to very much good that has anything to do with the medicinal and the compassion that we do have to have for those people who need it. So, Mr. Speaker, if we're going to have a medical marijuana, let's treat it like medicine. Let's not categorize this thing over in some special place like when Viagra came out. Should we have had Viagra clinics only soliciting those kind of things? Now we got marijuana. We got to specifically say that we had a clinic just for marijuana dispensary. What's the logic? If you can get the same thing at Ross, why you have to go to Nordstrom? The black market is going to rise up in this occasion, and it's going to make a big difference. For those reasons, Speaker, again, I'm still not for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Further discussion, members? Speaker Emeritus Say.
Mr. Speaker, I'll be very brief. I'm in support with reservations.
Please proceed.
As a former speaker, yes, I was part of the legalization of medical marijuana. But more importantly, it was at a point in time, it was under the jurisdiction of the Department of Public Safety. After that, it became the jurisdiction of the Department of Health. And because it was more on the medical side, I can appreciate it. The only reason why I'm going to reservations this afternoon is very easy. Can we, as this legislative body, as you pass a budget next week, to address the issue of funding the Department of Health in the execution and implementation of what the House draft has before us? If it does not, I think a lot of the discussion on the floor is absolutely correct. You get the underground, you get the cartels, marijuana companies with money that will infiltrate the state of Hawaii at the expense of the general public of the state of Hawaii, our keiki o kaino. I am concerned. Who determined what was 26 or 23 dispensaries? Not any of you on this floor of the House. Can the Department of Health really implement a program without the support of the counties, which I brought it up at the House leadership in regards to who's going to enforce it? My thought was the Liquor Commission. They go to other bars and enforce the liquor laws. Would you like the Attorney General's office? Then you set up. You find the money to set up a unit within the Attorney General's office to have overall control. But at the end of the day, my whole point is this. As this measure moves through, I hope the Senate will try to address my concerns that have been brought to this floor of the House this afternoon. Because I am concerned. I am concerned of what has happened in Colorado with the legalization. I am concerned in Washington, the state of Washington, the legalization. I am concerned about the referendum that occurred in Alaska, where they have legalized marijuana also. And then you move on to California, where I was just surprised, very much surprised, 7 or 8 years ago, when my son graduated from UC Long Beach, and I went to my son's rental house with his 3 classmates, and one of them was doing medical marijuana. Uncle, I got my card. I said, brother, you okay? What's your medical problem? I got my card. What I'm saying to you this afternoon, I am concerned that we may take it for granted that the administration who does the execution and implementation of the program will do their very best. But, like what one of the representatives said from the neighbor islands, if there is not support from the counties, it is a major, major problem. I would recommend to the Senate, as this bill goes over, which I'm supporting, can we do an execution implementation of this program 5 to 6 years, whereby every year a report is given back to this body and the Senate to show where are we. So it is very, very tight. Not unless, if all of you agree, that you may have corporations from South America, Central America, Mexico, Southeast Asia, running the cartel here in Hawaii in regards to marijuana. Come on, let's go back to the background of who's financing everything. We've had issues here before in regards to who's developing all the properties in the state of Hawaii. It's not local. It's not local money, Speaker. It's outside money. And that's where I wanted to just share with all of you. Go slow and be cautious of what we do. In closing, Senate, I hope you hear what I'm saying, because you folks are going to have this particular measure in your chambers after we passes it.
Are you in my time? 3 minutes.
Thank you very much.
Chairman Ito, only 3 minutes? I thought you gave me 5 minutes. I'm only joking. But in closing, seriously, it isn't concern. We may pass the measure, but it always depends for the freshmen and sophomores, execution and implementation by the administration. And without the monetary support of personnel, I don't want to be in a position where we have lost control of our state that we dearly love. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker Emeritus. Members, very robust discussion. Great job. Any further discussion before we go to a vote? Representative Oshiro.
Okay, thank you.
I believe second time.
Well, it's the first time, Speaker.
I apologize.
It's the second time I'm voting in public on this measure. I was here back in 2000 when we did champion the medical marijuana program, and we were very proud of doing that. We were the first state in the nation to legislatively enact the law to allow our constituents to possess and grow marijuana. The truth of the matter is, over the last 15 years, for those select number of citizens, marijuana has become legalized for them. Over the last 15 years, under the Department of Public Safety, ask yourself this question. How many times has a license to use marijuana in one's home or to grow marijuana, has a permit been revoked? The answer is none. It has never had. It's never occurred, never happened. That's how little enforcement is going into the law. So unlike some of the other speakers who talk about this being a slippery slope to legalization, I see it as an expansion and commercialization of legalized marijuana. You see, right now you can get a doctor's certificate for a fee and pay $35.80 to the Department of Health and get a card. It's a white card, not a blue card, about the size of a business card. If you're approached by a police officer, law enforcement officer, you flash that card. He or she then, on reviewing the card, if it's accurate, if it's authentic, if it's current, will not stop you, will not have probable cause to arrest you, will let you go on your way. So I tell people that's a fact. That's where we are today. And it makes sense, right? The federal government is not spending any resource and time on prosecuting, and neither should our local law enforcement. Not for the small kid out there smoking some pot, carrying one small nickel bag. But that's not what we're talking about. We're going from homegrown, back of the yard kind of things amongst friends who are your caregivers to commercialize big time retail marijuana, folks. And let me tell you this, the folks outside who got the money, they're set up and primed to come in. The representative from Kahalu talked about the local farmers. Yeah, you grab the permit, by local guy grabs the permit, be local face, but the money and the accountants and the legal power are coming from the mainland because money is to be made. Folks, I visited a recreational dispensary in Colorado. Beautiful setup, like a candy store. They get all the different types of grades and strains and product. And what's so ironic about it, especially for the neighbor island guys, you got to wrestle with this whole GMO issue. I don't know how many of you guys understand, as a commercial product, much of the strains and varieties of medicinal marijuana are patented. There are patents. And who controls and owns the patents? Not the mom and pop. We're talking about the big guys, pharmaceuticals. We're talking about Monsanto. We're talking about Syngenta. We're talking about Bayer. We're talking about Cargill. And it makes sense. It's a product. We also know that big tobacco is also trying to get in the door. Why? We all know tobacco sales are down. That's why when you look at this building, it calls about 26 dispensaries, 30 growing facilities. And everyone's saying, because we need to do this for the 13,000 people that have been waiting for 15 years. Well, ladies and gentlemen, look at the facts.
Representative DeCoit, would you yield your time?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Representative.
13,000 cardholders didn't pop up overnight. Go back several years. What was it prior 4 years ago? It was like 8,000. Go back 2 months into December. Ask the Department of Public Safety when this question was asked of the cardholders. How many of the cardholders today cannot grow or have a caregiver grow the marijuana for you? Hawaii Island, 5,415 patients, 12 people. 12 people have no caregiver or cannot grow their own marijuana. Maui, 3,183 cardholders. 78 cannot grow or get a caregiver. Less than 3%. Oahu, 3,100. 221, a little more, yeah? 7%. Kauai, 1,900. 6 people cannot grow their own or have a caregiver. Molokai, 222. one individual, one person. Lanai, 28. Oh, they're okay over there. Ni Hao, 3. They're okay over there. So of the 13,937 cardholders as of December, only 318 say they cannot grow their own, have a caregiver. Keep that in mind. Mr. Speaker, can I have permission to submit written comments?
Absolutely. So ordered.
Okay. So I don't know how often we do something like this for 318 people. But let me point this out to you too. You know, much has been said, will be said about children, the keiki, the youngest, the future generation, the most vulnerable. The need to put resources into their future, our greatest hope. Well, let me point out some of the consequences of creating more marijuana out there for them to stumble across or be exposed to. Because we've done a poor job with pharmaceutical drugs, tobacco, and alcohol. And I don't think we're going to do much better under the current scheme in this bill. Research shows that illegal drug use among teens increase as the perception of risk and social disapproval declines, as in the commercialization and legalization of medical marijuana dispensaries. A recent study found that those who use marijuana heavily, daily, in their teens and continue into adulthood, 18, showed a permanent drop in IQ of 8 points. 1 in 11 people.
Representative Har, will you
Mr. Speaker, I yield my time.
Thank you very much, Representative.
Thank you, Speaker, for your indulgence. 1 in 11 people, whoever started using marijuana become addicted. We're not talking about the stuff in the 70s, 80s, and 90s with a THC of 1 to 3%. We're talking about THC in plant content today, 15, 20, 25, 30%. Real potent stuff. For teenagers, Mr. Speaker, addiction rate jumps 1 in 6. Increased use leads to higher addiction rates. 66% of serious disciplinary actions in public schools can be attributed to distribution, possession, or use of illegal drugs. High school students who use alcohol or other drugs are up to 5 times more likely to drop out of school. I was listening to a national public radio story several weeks ago on the radio. You can still download it, listen to it, it's very informative, by this Dr. Francis Jensen. The teenage brain, why teens are impulsive, addiction prone, and should protect their brains. It's a good read. But the basic supposition in her book is this: teenage brains are different, and they don't fully mature until the age of 24 and 25. And when they're teens, all the conditions that make learning easier for them versus adult brains are the very same reasons why they are prone to addictive behavior. Addiction is just doing something over and over again and getting more effective and efficient in learning that skill. And teenage brains, by definition, organically, biologically, are prone to it. You know, if Hawaii follows the trends of other states like Arizona, I know the task force looked at Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and other states. But in a few years, we'll go from maybe 3 to 4 to 5 dispensaries to maybe over 80, 90 to 100 dispensaries. If Hawaii follows Colorado's lead, as far as the number of card holders, we'll go from 13,000 to several 50,000, 70,000, 100,000 in a few years. Those are the trend line, folks. If we look at history of other states as any guide. From January 1st, 2015 to February 26th, same year, just about 60 days that the Department of Health has had this program transferred to the Department of Public Safety. Almost 800 new card holders have come online. 60 days, 800 more card holders. The word is getting out. Hawaii is open. Come on down. Let's make the deal. Mr. Speaker, let me give you some examples so we understand what's at stake here. This is a 2-ounce bag. Not the real stuff. Don't get excited.
Just looking.
This is 8 ounces.
Representative Cullen, will you yield your time?
I yield my time.
This is 4 ounces.
Mr. Speaker, a point of information. I think the time has been yielded one time. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong.
Well, we have a cumulative. My apologies is that the time is getting kind of late. Thank you very much.
I'll try and wrap it up, Speaker.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I stand corrected.
And actually, I have a question. I apologize. Should have asked earlier. Are you a WR or a no on this bill?
I'll be going reservations because you know why, Mr. Speaker? I want a shot at being on the conference committee.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, let me wrap this up. I want to submit written comments. But I just want to clear my conscience like so many of you out here today. So you guys know about the effects on the kids. You guys know that there's no additional money being put into the budget in those areas. Behavioral health, health department, human services, education. You also know this bill not only trumps the rights of counties on home rule zoning, it trumps the responsibility of Department of Agriculture or where these farms are going to be set up. And get this, folks. This is the math. It's amazing. $2,000 to get a fee, license fee to grow marijuana, 500 plants. Double down. You go 4,000, you get 1,000 plants. You think that's a lot of money? Small investment. Small investment. With the marijuana they have today, the types of strains they have, here. One farmer with a 1,000 plant license, you get about 3 growing seasons per year. Some of you guys know that. With each season being about 4 months. That's a long season for a marijuana plant. You process about 3,000 plants. If each plant produces 4 ounces, okay, of bud, flowers, then 3,000 plants would result in 750 pounds. If it sells for $2,000 a pound, that would be about $1,500,000 in 1 year. Not too shabby. GT, we had about 70,000 on Oahu, $62,000 on neighbor islands. Mr. Speaker, should we chart this course? Bold course for our communities? Let us ensure that we do not open Pandora's box, that we do not harm our youngest citizens, that we do not inflict another vice like tobacco or alcohol or e-cigarettes upon them. Let us learn from the experience of other states, and let us not take away their futures and handicap them. And if you guys are thinking about putting it in my community, don't. But I'll fight you tooth and nail to keep it out of my community. My young people have enough challenges already. I hope to participate further in discussion. I'll be available for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Representative. We have had robust discussion on this measure. Representative Lee.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. In strong support.
In strong support, please proceed.
One of the members of my family has multiple sclerosis and diabetes, the medications for which cost over $100,000 a year. But the only thing that makes a difference and quells the pain is this. So I stand in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Speaker Emeritus, say second time, still WR?
Yep, Mr. Speaker, in WR, but Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you and Speaker Suki for the opportunity of having my statements and everybody else's statements here recorded on the House floor. This is part of the journal where you folks are going to be reflective of what we have said in regards to what the future will be for the Keiki of Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Speaker Emeritus. Any further discussion before we go to the vote? If not, Representative Evans, for the vote.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the measures before us, on page 28, the majority members vote aye with the following exceptions. On Standing Committee Report 906, House Bill 321 HD1, the following representatives vote no. Representatives Cullen, Har, Kong, and Tokioka.
Thank you very much. Representative Tupola.
Stancom Report 906, House Bill 321, House Draft 1. Voting no, Representative McDermott, Pouha, Tupola, and Ward.
Thank you very much.